Today we're not talking about your courses and the stuff you've taken and the stuff you learned.
Ah, man, it's too bad.
We're talking about you.
Talking about me?
Yeah, that's all. That's
How much time you got?
Enough.
Enough time? Okay,
Yeah,
all right.
So look right at me when you're talking. Don't worry about the camera. You're actually looking at
Oh, I'm looking at you? Okay, good. All right, yeah.
This way we'll just talk.
All right.
So let's start with how it is you became a firefighter. And I don't mean in great detail, but was there a moment, was there something where you thought, that's what I want to be? Or did it just evolve?
I'm a second generation firefighter. I remember growing up in the fire service when my dad was working in Cape Coral. I remember one of my first pictures as a kid was in their old white ladder one or engine one. And I grew up around it. You know, I was junior. I've always been junior. I remember, going to Christmas parties and local events and birthday parties. And I've always been surrounded in the fire service, so it was kind of a no-brainer for me. So for me, it was just something that was always ingrained in my blood. I have family in upstate New York that are also in the fire service too. So I wouldn't say it's a family thing, but definitely being a second generation with my dad, it was kind of they'd be surprised if I didn't turn out to be a firefighter.
So you didn't fight it at any point? Thinking,
actually,
I don't want to be a firefighter because
Well, what I did was my dad said I was a little smarter by, I went out into the workforce and worked for a local grocery store company. I don't know if you've ever heard of them, but they're called Public Supermarkets.
Oh, of course, with the LIX.
But so I was a manager there for a little bit. I did about 7 years, and then one day it just clicked. I'll never forget it. One day I just called him up and said, you know what? I think it's about time I go ahead and I join the family business. So, and he helped me out, and he always supported me. He never actually pushed me to do it too. He never forced me to do it. He never told me that I need to do it. He always told me, he says, Michael, you need to make your own decisions, but I'll support it no matter what you do. And I did, and 13 years later, I've been promoted to engineer, and he couldn't be any more prouder. And I guess the rest is history when it comes to that, yeah.
He must be very proud, even though he didn't push you into it. I'm sure there's a part of him that thinks.
Well, I have my pinning ceremony coming up in a couple weeks down south there, and you could tell he gets a little emotional because my 5-year-old daughter and my 3-year-old son are going to be pinning me. So he's a proud papa, yeah.
Man, I understand that. I understand that very well. All right, who nominated you?
Oh, actually, a very close friend of mine, Grant Schwabe, who is not only a hot instructor for his Making the Grab, his residential primary search class. He taught Monday and Tuesday. He was also a lecturer for doing residential primary search and aggressive search tactic. On lecture, it was yesterday. Grant and I have taught at the local Fort Myers Fire Academy down in Florida where we live for about the past, for me I've been an instructor there for about 5 years. I think Grant's been teaching about 7 or 8 years, but he's a brother in arms. He is like a big brother to me. He's my mentor. I learn from him every day I can. He's a great friend. He's a good guy. He's an amazing instructor, an awesome teacher. And, my dad always told me that you're always going to have role models in your career. My dad's role models were Brannigan and Mike Champo from FDIC and Chief McGrail from Denver. And guys like my dad, my old lieutenant, who's like a second father to me, those guys were my mentors, where guys like Rob Lassetti, who's at Fairfax, and John Lockwood, who's at Iona McGregor Fire Department, who teaches with us, and guys like Grant. And I have many mentors, but it's very hard to have someone be your mentor and your brother at the same time. And Grant, without a doubt, I couldn't thank him enough. I don't know if I'll ever be able to repay him for giving me the opportunity.
How did you find out about it? Did he surprise you? Was it when you found out you were got the nomination?
It's funny you should say that, because Brooke Riccardi, who's last year's recipient, I teach with Brooke at the Fire Academy, and we were talking about it. She was telling us about her experience, and I just mentioned a little bit of, man, it would be great to go up there and experience that, because my dad came here in 2008 and 2009 and said, Michael, if there was ever a chance in your career, whether it be 20 years or 30 years, doesn't matter, you need to experience the FDIC. So I said that, and I guess Grant heard about it, or heard me say it, and he said that he was getting some stuff, a little bio for me together, and he says, you have any action shots and this and that, and I kind of, okay, well, what you gonna do? He goes, well, I'm gonna nominate you for the FDIC Honeywell Scholarship. I'm like, get out of here, man, you're gonna nominate me? And I was, he told me about it, so I wasn't really taken back too much by it, because I obviously knew that I was gonna get submitted, my video was gonna be submitted. But he was pretty confident that I would get it, just because of just, he remembers that some people that did their videos were very good. And he says that, he said the content that I had was also good. So he said it shouldn't be a problem. And sure enough, it was a couple months later though, from when he nominated me. So I was getting a little worried. I was like, oh man, I don't think I'm gonna get it this year. And then just at the last minute, probably about maybe the last week and a half before the deadline, I got the email that said that I got the scholarship, and I was on cloud nine. It was awesome. I mean, I had so many, things running through my head. What I was going to do, who I was going to meet, who I was going to network with, what classes I was going to take. So it was pretty. It was an awesome feeling, and then getting promoted too. On top of that, it was very. Like I said, I couldn't thank him enough.
That's awesome.
It was awesome.
When I first met Brooke last year, she was really quiet. She came across at the start, but something told me there was much more to it.
She's a firecracker.
Yeah.
She got wind of me winning, and she was like, "You need to do this. You need to take this. You need, anything you can." I mean, it was, it was awesome.
Doesn't surprise me. She's the best. All right, let me ask you about some of the things that have become unavoidable hot-button issues here at FDIC.
Okay.
And they are things like, and Brooke Bacardi is a great example of this, the changing face of fire service, more women in fire service. I know you work with Brooke, so you've got some great examples there.
Oh, absolutely.
How do you feel about the notion of fire service becoming more co-educational?
I'm all about it. Here's my thing. All right, so if the respective female firefighter sitting next to me can do the job just as good, if not better, I'm all for it. I'm a very progressive, proactive person. I don't live in the past. I don't look back and say that this is just a man's job, because there are individuals that are, there's actually a good close friend of mine, her name is Billy Phonic, and when I tell her that I mentioned her on TV, she's probably gonna get all blushy-eyed, and she's gonna be blush, because she's not a person that likes the camera too much either. She's very, very reserved. But Billy Phonic is like a sister to me. We've worked together for 6 years, and she's an amazing firefighter. She's a wonderful person. She's an amazing wife and mother. But I tell you what, she can outwork me on the fire ground any day of the week. She's an animal, and I hold her up to a very high standard. And any female in the fire service that can do what she does, emulate what she does, or even better, you have my stamp of approval. Not that my stamp of approval means much, but anybody that can work like her, any female that can work like her on the fire ground, in the firehouse, in the public eye, I'm okay with it. It really, for me being, someone like myself, to say that women don't belong in the fire service, that's not true at all. There are many amazing female firefighters out there. There's Captain Dina Ali, captain out of Raleigh, an amazing woman, an amazing person, a former scholarship recipient. She met me on the plane, and I saw her, and we are Facebook friends through social media, and she welcomed me with open arms when I got off the plane. Didn't know where I was going. She's like, come on, I'll help you, She doesn't know me really from Adam. I mean, just from Facebook conversations and whatnot. But someone like that, has my thumbs up. I give him a lot. I give her a lot of respect. I give Brooke a lot of respect. I give Billy a lot of respect. I give any female in the fire service a lot of respect that goes through a lot of issues in their respective departments that might not be as easy as some and maybe even harder than others.
There's still guys out there who wish that those people weren't on the fire service. And,
I disagree with them.
and I do too.
Whole bunch. I disagree with them wholeheartedly. And I will argue that if they really have that notion to put them in gear on the fire ground and watch what my girl can do.
Yeah.
Watch my girl run circles around you while you're huffing and puffing. Just for lack of a better term.
No, I hear you, and I agree completely. And it sounds to me like you have the same standard for men. If you can stand up to the job and be professional and perform, you should have a place. But if you can't, it doesn't matter if you're a man or a woman.
Absolutely.
Just can you do the job?
And like I said, I feel that as long as you can do the job, male or female, it doesn't matter. It's not proven to anybody in that firehouse. What you're doing is you're providing a service. You're providing a service to the public, to the community. And if you can do it to the best of your ability, to the department standard, it doesn't matter if you're a male or female.
Amen. All right, one of the other things that we notice in evolution in fire service is that there are new dangers you guys face.
How much time you got?
No, it's not the same as it used to be. There's all kinds of new dangers. In addition to fire and fire smoke and the dangers Brad and others were talking about with synthetics and how it adds
Materials, absolutely.
There's also the danger of this active shooter kind of phenomenon.
Yeah.
Have you folks considered it, thought about it, planned for it? Even though I hope it never happens, are you ready for it if it does?
Yes, we actually, in my local department, the department I work for, we did a lot of things with the fire service. For the most part, it's kind of a reactive. We become reactive. It's hard to be proactive because of the Parkland shooting, of the Orlando shooting, the shootings out on the west coast of out there in Arizona, and when you have those incidents, you become reactive. Where now all of a sudden it's active shooter training. But inevitably, at least in the fire service or maybe even in public safety in general with police and EMS, that it kind of has to be reactive because you really can't be prepared for all situations. However, the fact that the active shooter has become huge in our nation's media, my department has done a type of training which is a swift assisted victim extrication, which is a SAVE plan. And basically what it means is we are going to go in with law enforcement and do that active shooter type removal with victims or with patients that we see in that situation. It pretty much mimics the active shooter program that it's around the country. We put a little spin on it. As far as my department down south, my EMS battalion chief, Tony Demos, has been spearheading that for a while, and it's been pretty good. The guys and everyone has been receptive of it. But I do feel that particular topic in the media, it is definitely reactive. We don't necessarily, we knew about it, we knew somewhat of what to do, but there wasn't really a plan until they became so prominent in the area, especially in Florida with it being Parkland and Orlando. Very close together, not too far away from Cape Coral, only a 4-hour drive. It could happen anywhere nowadays. With people, it could happen anywhere. And with that being said, we have to be on alert, and that training has to be now, has to be done now, has to be perfected, has to be honed in, and we all have to have some type of working relationship with our local EMS and our local police department in that training, and that's what we did. We got everybody together in our agency, in our area, and we did this active shooter training, and it was great, it was good, we all liked it. Wish it would have been a little sooner, but once again, it's reactive. Now with the cancer presumptive clause, that is a huge thing in the fire service industry, with all the booths down there talking about how particulate protection with the fire gear and the hoods, with cancer being a huge killer in the fire service. Cardiac related injuries or cardiac related line of duty deaths are still number one, but cancer's creeping up a lot. And with all these companies now becoming so focused on particulate protection with our gear, You know, that's another thing that it's not only have mass casualties or active shooters and cardiac. Now we got to worry about cancer. So
What are you guys doing about protecting you and your longevity?
We have done everything from, you know, new gear to specialized washing equipment, specialized extractors. We talked about some type of company to be sent out to have our gear washed and cleaned and disinfected and all the particulate taken out. You know, there's many lengths that we've tried or that we're going to try that just costs so much money, and trying to get the funds from the city and the taxpayers, it's kind of a double-edged sword, because we want to provide the best quality service, but we also want to be able to, you know, extend our life and not pass away from an undying illness that or an unrelated illness that that even the state legislation hasn't even. Florida, at least in my knowledge, is one of a few states that still doesn't have the cancer presumptive clause.
You know, Mike, I hear you. It is expensive, but you know it's also expensive? Seeing young men die of cancer.
Yeah.
That's more expensive.
Yeah.
So as a taxpayer, we'd be happy to pay.
Yeah, I appreciate that. You know, it comes down to what price can you put on life? You know,
Right.
Can someone look at me in the face and say, you're only worth a few $1,000s? You know, that you die of throat cancer, testicular cancer, colon cancer. You know, how can you look a family in the face and say, well, it was just too much?
If the only price is money, oh hell, money? Money as compared with life?
Yeah.
People who are saving hours? I just don't see it. I think you guys should not only have a second set of gear, I think an agency should wash your gear regularly. I think you should have bulletproof vests. I think you guys should have everything you need, because you don't have time to be looking around at who may be firing at you.
Mm-hmm. You know?
You're saving people and property. You
Absolutely.
can't divert your attention.
I mean,
I think that's the least we can do.
And the stories out in FDNY where the guys were just doing a regular call and they get shot at. I think one of them might have perished. I'm not 100% sure, but
and unfortunately,
it's just
you make an easy target, because you're not
Yes.
looking out. You're wearing reflective jackets,
Yes.
for goodness sakes.
Might as well have a bullseye on our
Stand
back.
out, you might as well point a big X
Yeah.
on
You
your
know,
back.
so if it's not that, the cancer, and if it's not the cancer, it's the cardiac. You know, I see all these booths down here that have this particular protection. Honeywell doing an amazing job in advanced technology and advanced research in particular protection for us, saving our lives. Not to mention a slew of other companies down there doing the same thing, because now it's known. It's not just something that was it's not something that was just some type of taboo thing 20 years from now. 20 years from now, stuff like that was happening, but because 20 years later, guys are dying of it, now all of a sudden it's a big thing. And it should have been a big thing even back then, but, you know, I mean...
Now we've got data, now it's real.
Yeah,
So-
the statistics.
So now I see action, I see movement, but I hope money isn't what keeps people from being safe.
Remember what I told you, our industry is very reactive. You know, we try to be proactive as we can, but, you know, when it's all said and done, you know, when the man upstairs says it's your time to go, it's your time to go. However, if we can prevent it or at least extend it, I do believe that we should do, you know, our due diligence and try. And I know all the departments around this country, this great country, I know they're doing their best. And I love the fact that Honeywell gave me an opportunity not only to experience FDIC, but to also talk to some of the reps, talk to some of the vendors, talk to the Honeywell vendors and get their take on it, get what they're trying to do, trying to be proactive instead of reactive. I love that, and I hope that the next person that I nominate gets chosen so they get the opportunity to be able to experience that and get that word of mouth out, because with the scholarship recipients now, just doing a rotation of just so many other individuals coming in there, getting that mass word out and that education, bringing it back to their respective departments, well, you know, we are ahead of the game.
Yeah, and I've said this all week long, I have great faith in your generation of firefighter. The groups that came before you, they didn't have these options, they didn't know what was out there, it wasn't offered to them, but you guys do.
Yeah.
And I hear you guys talking about it, you men and women. This generation of firefighter does not want to line up to die from cancer.
Nope.
Nor should you.
Yeah.
And I have a feeling, with as vocal as you are, the changes that have already happened are just the beginning.
Yeah.
I have to believe that.
Yeah, I do too.
And I think you guys will be the ones who make it.
I do too.
Talking about changes in the fire service, also due to your generation, technology now plays such a big role.
Yeah.
What do you guys use that you don't want to live without anymore? What's become standard for you in technology that makes a big difference for you?
It's a great question because, see, the thing is that I would say that I am a mid-generational person because, I was born in 1980, so, I know some of the technology. I know that it's out there. I know how to use it. I know how to use it to the best of my ability. Am I super tech savvy? Not very much. I know that the thermal imagers have grown exponentially in the fire service, have become a great tool. So I would say that's one technological advance because it does allow us to see locating down victims, locating down firefighters, seeing the seat of the fire, seeing the temperatures, getting a good picture of what we're up against. They have the radio systems, the telecommunication systems have been exponentially improved with going in certain buildings that before radio frequencies couldn't penetrate because of the construction of the building. Now it's getting where they can, and you can have verbal communication that if there is some type of change in fire condition or there's a collapse, God forbid, that you can use the radio to operate those emergency op channels. There's also with the SCBA technology. Even technology that's not even digital, but it's more with the gear, with the helmets, with the gloves, the PPE, the personal protective equipment, the fire trucks, the mobile data systems and the computers in the trucks with the GPS, unable to get the call there quicker, the fire apparatus, the pumping systems, the hose, the nozzles. Everything that has been technologically improved, not necessarily on a data or computer aspect, but technological advances in general in our industries have made it a whole lot easier for us to do our job as opposed to the leatherheads, in the 20s, 30s, and 40s where it was just a leather helmet, 3/4 boots, a coat, maybe a sponge to give you some type of air, some barrier from the smoke. Huge technological advances. I would have to say the thermal imagers have definitely grown exponentially and have made our job a lot easier in a sense that we get to the seat of the fire faster. We can see conditions of flashover to help save firefighters from going in too far, too deep, that they won't be able to come out. I would think also the GPS systems alone for even responding to EMS calls, fires, accidents of that nature have been exponentially improved with the iPads, with the mobile tracking systems, and at least in my department, we have iPads now for also our report writing and documentations for EMS calls. That is a huge technological advance where my father, who did 36 years at the Cape Coral Fire Department, he tells of stories where the logs was done in paper and pencil, where they would have file cabinets, files stacked as big as this room of daily logs because they had no way to put them in the system, no way to report them, no way to track them. That's what they did. And now that they're all being... That was a system, was a filing system. Yeah, exactly. So that's why when I coming into the fire service a little later on, I was 25 when I got hired, but I was also born somewhat before the technological advancement, at least in the industry, but I'm not an amateur. I'm not a pro, but I'm not an amateur. I do know how to weave my way around it. I do know how to operate it, but I'm not a super tech savvy guy, but I know how to use it, and I know how to use it effectively and safely. So,
important.
Yeah.
All right, we talked about a lot of serious stuff. I want to veer off just for a question or two. You've probably rolled on some calls that you thought, oh my God, that was the strangest thing ever. Anything you can mention? Was there a call or two where you got there and you thought, I cannot believe this is so odd?
Well, okay, so honestly, I don't have one.
Okay.
I don't have one. I do have one that my dad always tells the recruits at the fire academy. Are you sure? We could talk. Okay, all right, so, okay, all right, this is great. Okay, so Okay, I don't have one because I've only did, I'm on my 13th year, so I really don't have too crazy a call, but he has a call that, and I'm pretty sure I have his blessing for telling this call. So they respond to a basic general sickness, a sick person just requiring medical attention. They get there to the call, they see a guy on the couch, middle age, has a towel draped over his lap, and they see some blood on it, but nothing. He's in no pain. He's calm. Talking to you guys, just like I'm talking to them, just like I'm talking to you. What's the problem, sir? His exact words were, he's like, well, I did it, and it's in the freezer. Okay. They're kind of baffled, don't know really what's going on. So he's a lieutenant, so he sends 2 of his guys over, and they look in the freezer where the guy tells them to look, and sure enough, there's his male appendage frozen to the grate of the freezer. Yeah. And so they kind of meander on over back to the couch. Mind you, no serious signs of bleeding or anything. They say to remove it, and sure enough, he lopped it off, and some mild oozing, and he was very pale, a little diaphoretic, showing signs of shock where you have blood loss or fluid loss. Sure enough, they cover it really quickly. They get the ambulance on stat because they're like, you guys need to hurry up. So they run lights and sirens to the hospital, only to get called back from EMS saying that they're going to need the appendage to go with them to the hospital, because in the frantic panic of getting him into the hospital, as you know, very well know, that if someone maybe lops off a finger or a toe, it has to go with the person, right? So once again, they proceed to go ahead and warm the freezer grate to retrieve the appendage and put it in a plastic bag and drop it off to another unit, because they're in the north end, and they had to drop it off to a central unit because the hospital was in the central location. And come to find out a few weeks later that individual was his second time doing that. And when the doctors asked why, his answer was, I just don't feel like being a man anymore. And that was a story that he still tells to this day. Supposedly, rumor is that there are pictures floating around of this event to prove that it actually happened, but pictures haven't been able to be retrieved or found. But there is, amongst a few that are still there that ran the call, definitely confirmed that that appendage was in said freezer and removed from said individual.
I'm going to go with believing your dad and hope to never see the picture.
Yes.
Personally.
So that's one I could never top, so I figured I'd tell that one.
You're darn right you couldn't top that, and I'm going to stop it there unless James has something to ask. Yep. Because I don't know how you follow that up. What James could possibly ask you to.
That story was a cut above the other.
Yes. Oh, I had the worst fire department meal too, which was my meal.
Then I want to hear you about that too.
What's your worst fire department meal?
My worst fire department meal was a meal that I made, which I've actually made a few times before. It was stuffed flank steak. Beautiful. We get the flank steak cubed up, wrap up mozzarella cheese, spinach, sun-dried tomatoes, pepperoncinis, and then we use some Montreal steak seasoning, right? Well, everybody knows that Montreal steak seasoning, it's a shaker, which has a screw top. Well, when I went to go shake on the seasoning, it just went and dumped everywhere, right? So I'm thinking, okay, I can save this, because you got to wrap it up, you got to tie it, and you throw it in the oven. Bake it 350 for 30, 40 minutes, right? Now, my lieutenant at the time was a man who, at every meal for the last 10 years, would eat a pound of bacon. Every meal. Every meal. At the firehouse. Every meal he would have a pound of bacon. So I proceeded to cook this, thinking, man, you know what? I might be able to get away with it. And mind you, it was a good football-size shaped stuffed flank steak, because obviously when you roll it up, it doubles up in size. It shrunk down to a size of about this to a size of about this. And you want to talk about beef jerky? This was beef jerky, okay? And he cut it, and it looked great. It looked great. But as soon as he cut it and he ate it one bite, he goes, sorry, Junior, this meal ain't gonna fly. So then I proceeded to call Domino's and order 4 pizzas for everybody because that meal was the most horrible meal in my 13-year career that I have either made or eaten. And I will admit to making one of the worst fire department meals ever. Guys to this day still talk about, what are we going to have for dinner as long as we don't have Mike's famous dried stuffed flank steak? Oh my gosh.
Well, it's either a bad steak or good beef jerky.
Oh, it would have been amazing beef jerky, but yeah, they weren't in the mood for beef jerky for dinner. So that's my worst fire department meal. Yeah, right? Yeah.
Okay, so tell me the one thing you're going to take back.
One thing? Oh man, James, one thing.
Curly, one thing.
I think I know what I'm going to take back is my experience. The experiences that I've had over the course of the last 5 days, that Honeywell has provided for me. I don't think like I said, I don't think I'll be able ever in my career, my life, I'll be able to thank Grant or Honeywell enough of the experiences that I have had over the last 5 days. Some of my mentors, some of the people that I've looked up to, that I've been able to meet in person, some of the individuals that I've met. Without a doubt, experiences. Every day I experience something new, someone that I've talked to, the classes, the courses, the event, as much effort and as much that Honeywell puts into its scholarship recipients, the experiences, no one can ever even begin to describe the experiences that this conference allows and provides for its recipients, not only for the recipients, but the attendees as well, the people that come here, on their own time and their own dime. The fact that I was able to do this, that Honeywell gave me the chance to experience this, like I said, my dad told me that in your career, whether it be 20 years, 25 years, 30 years, or beyond, this is something that you need to experience. He didn't say go to. He said you need to experience what this is all about. And I don't think I have, no, I know for a fact, not once have I not smiled, have I not laughed, have I not been impressed, have I not been educated, inspired, rejuvenated. What I was able to experience here at FDIC, I don't think I would ever be able to experience it if it wasn't for Honeywell and Grant, who nominated me. I think if only Honeywell could provide more, if only everyone could have this experience. And the person that I nominate, I'm gonna do my due diligence. I'm gonna do my best to make sure that individual can get the same experience that I've had, and that Honeywell has provided for me. I can't thank Honeywell enough. Just the sheer fact of me being at the FDIC in general was pretty big. But then to walk inside, to shake hands with leaders in our industry, innovators, the speakers, my friends, it's relationships that'll probably last a lifetime. Yeah, I don't know if I can thank Honeywell and Grant Schwabe enough. I know I won't. The only way I can repay Honeywell is by taking the experiences that I've had here and take them back to my department and hopefully come back and reunite with you guys here and hopefully make it an every year occurrence, because it's just, you can't do this in a week. This conference could be a month. That might give you enough time to experience everything that the conference has to offer. But the fact that Honeywell just gave me a little bit, just a week, a little bit, I could retire now. I could retire now, a happy man, to say that I have actually experienced FDIC and being a Honeywell scholarship recipient. Because the one thing too that I've noticed, every time that I told them I was here because Honeywell provided me the scholarship experience. Everyone has said, congratulations, that's awesome. A few individuals said themselves that they wish they would have got it because they know of what Honeywell provides for the recipients. Just a lifelong, a lifelong opportunity that not everybody gets to experience. So I would say my experience is James, yes.